That is ridiculous. That is a huge hit into the back. Lance Stroll found the wall. The third car to find the barrier today finds himself off the road on the formation lap, and he has got himself into difficulty.
What on earth is Stroll doing?
In Formula One, people always say that talent rises to the top, that hard work, dedication, and years of fighting against the best are what earn you a spot in the world's fastest sport. But let's be honest, there's another path. A shortcut that costs around $300 million, requires a billionaire father, and proves that sometimes in F1, it's not about how fast you are, it's about how rich you are. And that brings us to Lance Stroll, often nicknamed Daddy's Money by the F1 community.
It's in the firing line if you go off in that corner.
As you can see, that wasn't his fault.
Fair old thump there, didn't he?
Because when you look at his journey, it's clear, even an ordinary driver can survive in Formula One, as long as your dad has the bank account for it. Lance Stroll was born on October 29, 1998, into extreme wealth. His father, Lawrence Stroll, is a Canadian billionaire worth approximately $3.9 billion. While most racing drivers start karting with borrowed equipment and parents taking second mortgages, Lance's journey was considerably different.
You know, when I was in Formula 3 and looking at potential options for the future, that's when I realized that Formula 1 was in the picture. Reflecting on when I was a kid, I would come here with some friends, and Formula 1 wasn't even in my thoughts back then. And to come back today and you know, and look back on when I was a kid and how it all started, it's very special. There's been a bit of an upgrade.
At just 10 years old, Lance started karting, and by 11, he was enrolled in the Ferrari Driver Academy. Impressive credentials, right? Well, it certainly helps when your father has the connections and capital to open every door in motorsport. But here's where the Lance Stroll phenomenon really begins, because every single step of his career has been paved with his father's money, and every seat he's occupied has come with a price tag that would make most drivers' entire careers look like pocket change.
I won F3 this year, and looking back at the list of drivers who have won F3, it goes to show that it's a really competitive championship, and you know, you learn a lot here. So all those drivers went on to bigger and better things, and I hope to do the same thing. I think you're learning a lot, but at the same time, you're competing already at a very high level. So, you know, the technical regulations are very open, and the team can do a lot with the car, and the driver as well has to. It's really a car that has a lot of downforce, and it teaches you how to drive, you know, with a lot of grip and how to use all that grip. And, you know, it's not easy to do that.
In 2014, Stroll moved to Formula 4 with Prema Power Team, one of the most dominant teams in junior motorsport. His father had reportedly invested around $60 million into Prema. Lance won the Italian F4 championship that year, but here's the twist. His teammate Brandon Maizano actually outscored him. However, Maizano was too old to be eligible for the championship title, so Lance won by default. Not exactly the fairy tale beginning you'd expect. By 2016, Lance dominated the F3 championship, winning by a massive 187 points. Sounds impressive until you learn that George Russell and other competitors openly accused Prema of using team orders to manufacture Lance's championship. Russell stated bluntly, "It's not a fair fight." This wasn't pure racing success. This was purchase dominance. Then came 2017, when Lawrence made his biggest investment yet. Williams was struggling financially and desperately needed cash. Lawrence showed up with a reported $80 million check for his 18-year-old son to get an F1 seat.
It's me. Stroll hit me. He didn't see me coming in the inside.
And Lance Stroll, is he about to do the same thing? Yes, he is. Bumpy end of the straight, and as soon as you jump on the brake pedal, if you're putting too much pressure on and the car's not completely stable.
Think about that number, $80 million. That's more than most teams' entire annual budgets. Lance became the second youngest F1 driver ever. But unlike Max Verstappen, who earned his seat through raw speed, Lance got his through his father's checkbook. His rookie season exposed the reality. Teammate Felipe Massa outqualified him 17 times to 2, with an average gap of over 0.6 of a second. He did score one podium in Baku, which suddenly became the justification. See, he deserves to be here. One podium in 20 races apparently validates $80 million. If buying a seat seemed excessive, Lawrence's next move was unprecedented. In 2018, the Force India team went into administration. Lawrence assembled investors and bought the entire Formula One team, rebranding it as Racing Point for 2019. Let that sink in. Lawrence Stroll bought an entire F1 team to guarantee his son had a permanent seat. The casualty? Esteban Ocon, one of the sport's most talented young drivers, was forced to sit out an entire year because Lance took his seat. A driver who reached F1 on pure merit was pushed aside by a billionaire's son. From 2019 to 2020, Lance was partnered with Sergio Perez and was thoroughly beaten in both seasons. So what did Lawrence do? He fired Perez, who had just won a race, and hired four-time world champion Sebastian Vettel. The solution to Lance being outperformed wasn't improving his skills, it was changing teammates. Now let's discuss Lance's actual abilities. He has exactly one genuine talent, driving in wet conditions. His pole position at Turkey 2020 was legitimately impressive. When it rains, he occasionally shows real speed, but the moment the track dries, he vanishes into mediocrity. Against Sebastian Vettel, Lance was roughly even, which sounds acceptable until you remember Vettel was past his prime. Against Fernando Alonso, though, it's been a complete massacre. In 2023, Alonso outqualified Lance 19 times out of 22 races, often by over a second. Alonso scored 206 points with 8 podiums. Lance managed 74 points with 0 podiums. Lance's response to this humiliation? Shoving his trainer after qualifying in Qatar and throwing his steering wheel in frustration. Real professional behaviour from someone earning millions to finish P15. Lance's career is a highlight reel of incidents that perfectly explain why the F1 community can't stand him. In China, 2024, he rear-ended Daniel Ricciardo under the safety car, yes, during a safety car period, completely destroying Ricciardo's race. Then he blamed Ricciardo, claiming the car just stopped in front of me. Ricciardo watched the onboard footage and saw Lance wasn't even looking at the car ahead. He was staring at the apex of the corner. At Australia 2022 qualifying, he inexplicably swerved into Nicholas Latifi, causing a crash, then immediately blamed Latifi on the radio, despite being completely at fault. The 2021 Hungarian Grand Prix saw him lock up on lap 1, cut across the grass like a lawnmower, and crash into Charles Leclerc while damaging Daniel Ricciardo's car. He received a penalty but took zero responsibility. Perhaps most embarrassingly, at the 2024 Brazilian Grand Prix, Lance crashed on the formation lap, beached his car in the gravel while trying to recover, and never even started the race. The Brazilian crowd started chanting for Felipe Drugovich, Aston Martin's reserve driver, to replace him. The F1 community's disdain for Lance isn't simply about being a pay driver. The sport has had many. It's the toxic combination of factors. His arrogance without accomplishment stands out. Lance acts entitled to his seat, despite being consistently outperformed. He never takes responsibility. Every crash and incident is somehow someone else's fault. The irony reached peak levels when he said the super license system exists to keep guys that don't deserve to be there from just buying their way through junior series. He literally described himself. Most frustratingly, he's taking opportunities from deserving drivers. With Lance in the second seat, Aston Martin essentially operates as a one-car team. Alonso fights for podiums while Lance battles to escape Q1. Imagine if they had a competent second driver. They could genuinely challenge for second in the Constructors' Championship. Here's the reality. Lance Stroll will never be fired. His father owns the team. It doesn't matter if he finishes last every race or crashes every weekend. Lawrence has invested over $300 million into his son's career and purchased an entire F1 team to guarantee him a seat through at least 2026. And that's exactly why everyone calls him Daddy's Money. Because in Lance's world, cash doesn't just talk, It buys entire racing teams and rewrites the rules of meritocracy. He's living proof that in Formula One, if your dad has enough money, even a simple man can survive at the pinnacle of motorsport.